Welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Before we dive into tonight's deep dive, tap subscribe, like this video, and if you can, hit join to support the channel and unlock exclusive content. Your encouragement keeps these investigations alive and thoughtful. Now, let's step into the night that turned a glittering gala into a quiet, very personal crossroads. The award ceremony, all hot lights and velvet ropes, offered more than trophies. It offered a test. Ozan Baba, walking onto that stage to accept Best Actor of the Year, has finally chosen to describe, clearly and without theatrics, exactly what went through him the moment he learned he would be sharing the same spotlight with Sinem, his former partner, now celebrated in her own right at the same event. From a distance it looked routine, curated laughter, polite applause, flashbulbs, speeches smoothed by media training. Yet beneath the choreography, something private pressed forward and insisted on being felt. Ozan says the first jolt happened days earlier, scrolling through the seating chart and confirmed guest list. Seeing Sinem's name wasn't a surprise, this was the industry, after all, but it landed with the weight of a life he had chosen to leave intact rather than keep performing. He calls it a brief dizziness of conscience, the moment you realize the present has scheduled an appointment with your unspoken past. Not because he had no feelings, he insists that would be a lazy misread, but because he had made a decision: keep what remains human away from the circus ring. The not hugging, the not pivoting for a photo, wasn't a void, he says, it was a border drawn calmly, deliberately. To the audience, the hotel ballroom looked like a movie frame. Two figures who once shared tenderness and timing were now ascending podiums in adjacent breaths. The coincidence, as predictable as it was combustible, erupted instantly online. Will they meet eyes? Will there be an embrace, a line in a speech, a scene we can all interpret? The cameras hunted for a tremor in Ozan's jaw, for a flicker in Sinem's smile, eager to seize the smallest twitch and crown it as evidence. But Ozan's inner script did not obey the narrative beats the crowd demanded. He moved carefully, guarding a memory rather than re-editing it for mass consumption. When Sinem's name was called for Breakthrough Female Artist, the room swelled. Ozan stood just outside the harshest light, the applause already washing past his shoulders. He watched her approach the microphone with that intelligent, luminous composure she's known for, disciplined, yet spontaneous, gracious without surrendering the self. He admits old pictures flickered in his head like film frames. Long talks after set days, early breakfasts in quiet corners, shared silence that had once felt like a language. But on the big screen there was nothing operatic, only subtleties. A small smile she tried to hide. Eyes rimmed with feeling and not quite tears. A micro-gesture, a tilt of the chin, as if nodding to a time that now belonged in a sealed drawer. Backstage offered the encounter most people never saw. It was brief, almost procedural, the way you nod at someone you still know by heart. We ended up within a few steps, Ozan recounts to those close to him. We said hello. That was it. A hello that carried its own weight and did not ask for an encore. For many online, that minimalism looked like avoidance. To him, it was the most honest way to respect two lives that had reorganized themselves. A hug would have been a performance, a photo, an object, a mention, a fuse. The restraint, he says, wasn't coldness, it was care, drawn as a line rather than delivered as a spectacle. Of course, the rumor mill did what the rumor mill does. One clip showed Ozan angling toward the table where Sinem sat and then veering away at the last second. Another claimed he stood up during her speech and then changed his mind. Comment sections lit up with armchair verdicts: arrogance, distance, unresolved ache, calculated PR. Ozan's response dismantles that easy narrative. The stage is a magnifier, he says in a low register, and everything under it becomes a prop for someone else's story. An embrace, at that moment, would not have belonged to us. It would have entered the public domain and started spinning in rumors roulette. Was he afraid that a hug would be read as reconciliation? He doesn't sidestep. Yes. But not for his own sake. I didn't want her present, her choices, her current rhythm, to be flattened into a single photo with me, he explains. If respect is the point, sometimes the kindest shape it can take is distance. To articulate that without sounding defensive is difficult, but he returns to it again and again. He believes there's dignity in letting what has ended remain whole, untouched by short-term applause. Even the speech became a question. He could have said her name from the podium, nodded to a chapter that shaped him as both man and artist. It might have been beautiful. He knows that. But he also knows beauty can be devoured by the machine that surrounds nights like these. Prudence isn't the opposite of feeling, he adds later. Sometimes it is the form feeling takes when it wants to protect what's left. That this landed on the very evening he was celebrating professional excellence made the emotion more complex, not less. Triumph and nostalgia can sit side by side without inviting the cameras into the room. In the hours that followed, the internet flooded with angles and theories. Was it cold not to offer a line of gratitude that nodded to the past? Do public figures owe total transparency when their private history becomes part of their brand? Ozan's answer, when it finally came, was quiet. The award represents years of craft, he said. It belongs to the crew who stayed late, the writers who risked, the directors who pushed, the family who backed me even when the work took me far from them. If I turned that platform into a page about a relationship that has already run its course, I would have shrunk everyone else's labor to a headline about my private life. He adds one more thread, the way a single frame, a hug, a glance, can be sliced into 1,000 interpretations, then cast back at the person you once loved. I didn't want to be the reason she woke up to a week of invented stories. The sentence most people will remember is a tender one, and he offers it without melodrama. An embrace collects the scent of days you can't get back. I wanted to keep that for us, not for an audience. With that, the story many had hoped to watch simply didn't happen. The romantic arc so many were lining up for evaporated into something quieter, more private, and perhaps more honest. Between them, Ozan says, there was a contained farewell, contained not because there was nothing to say, but because not every farewell needs a spotlight to be real. Meanwhile, Sinem's demeanor told its own measured tale. On stage, she thanked colleagues with precision, gracefully deflecting any invitation to gossip by keeping the focus on craft, gratitude, and the joy of being recognized for the work itself. Backstage, she didn't open the door to speculation. There was no conspicuous glance toward the corridor where Ozan waited, no theatrical delay, no pointed exit. Just professionalism, the kind that knows silence can be generous. What played out wasn't a fable about indifference or a parade of regret, rather, it was the choreography of two people who refused to trade the last good parts of what they had for a trending moment. To some, that kind of restraint reads as frost. To others, it looks like adulthood. In the days after, friends of both confirmed what could already be sensed: they had not been rehearsing an encounter, and they weren't eager to turn coincidence into closure for the crowd. The closure, such as it is, had already happened elsewhere, in the privacy of decisions and the time that hardened them. So what was this night? A collision of timelines, certainly. A test of how to stand near someone you've loved without letting the room claim the right to direct the scene. A reminder that the most intimate sentences sometimes take the smallest shape. "Hello," he said. "Hello," she answered. And for people who knew what those words carried, it was a lot. There's a version of this story that ends in a hug and a roar of applause. You've seen it in films. But this was not cinema, it was life dressed up like cinema, which is a different beast. It asks not what will thrill us, but what will give them dignity tomorrow. The restraint wasn't an absence of emotion, Ozan maintains. It was emotion choosing where to live. In memory. In work. In the unsent text you never send. By morning, the clips had been cut and captioned. One side insisted he almost said her name on stage, another swore she blinked away tears because of him. The truth sits closer to the ground. He spoke about the project, the craft, the team. She thanked the collaborators who believed in her first and loudest. Neither used the other to fortify a brand. If there is a lesson, it's that not every past can be made safe by performing it. Some pasts stay intact only when they are not reenacted in public. What about you, watching this unfold? Do you think Ozan chose wisely, or did he miss an opportunity to offer the crowd a graceful goodbye they could all hold on to? Would you rather see full candor from public figures, or do you value the kind of discretion that leaves questions hanging but souls less exposed? Tell us in the comments what you think, and suggest which Turkish celebrities you want us to investigate next on Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and, if you can, support us by joining, so we can keep bringing you long, careful pieces like this one. In the end, what happened was neither a grandstand nor a snub. It was a decision made with clear eyes, to keep one small, unwritten piece of their story private, even while accepting trophies under chandeliers. On Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we'll continue to read these chapters with sensitivity and context, not just hot takes. If you found this story compelling, share the video and return for more. Thank you for watching. Until next time, and remember, here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we keep telling the stories others hesitate to name.